Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Unlock the Middle's Navigating Leadership, episode number 41, Meeting Students Where They Are. My name is Dean Packard, and I'm the proud principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts. And tonight, we are going to have an amazing group with us at the round table, and we are going to be led by none other than Jillian DuBois. I said that correctly. I want to make sure I said that correctly, just in case, and a great cast of educational gurus from around the country. So again, let's not waste any time right here. I'm going to kick it right down. I'm going to go around the table very quickly. Josh, great to see you, my friend. You're always a staple here on Unlock the Middle.
Hey, thanks, Dean. Welcome. I hope everyone's been enjoying their Sunday here in Texas. Greetings to everybody. We're about to go back after our 2-week intercession, ready to hit the ground running, because it's very important that we don't allow our kids to fall behind. And most importantly, many times we're the reason why they go to school. One of us in that campus, the cafeteria worker, the custodian, an instructional aide, maybe the campus secretary, is the one that's connected with that child that has had that disconnect for 2 weeks. And we're so crucial and vital, especially during this time. But you know what? That's the joy of our job. That's the beautiful thing. And that's why tonight's topic is so important, that all of us from one coast to the other coast talk about this. So please let us know where you're from. Please interact with us, because you know what? We're only stronger together. And let's go around, everyone giving a little presentation. Dr. Dru, talk to us. How was your weekend?
Oh my gosh, my golly. Well, first of all, this is Dru Tomlin, broadcasting live and direct from tropical Westerville, Ohio, principal of Heritage Middle School, grades 6 through 8. And my weekend, thanks for asking, I just got done. I think I'm in the NASCAR line for lawn mowing. I just mowed my lawn in under 45 minutes. So I'm ready and sweaty and ready to roll.
Good stuff. Hey, kick it over to Matt. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, everybody, Matt Dunbar. I am fresh from the pumpkin patch. I spent like 4.5 hours there today with my wife and kids, and mom and sister. Had a great time. I'm in the 6th grade administrator at Benjamin Franklin Middle School in Rocky Mount, Virginia. Our school, 6 to 8, serves about 1,500 students. This is my 2nd year in that position, 5th year as an administrator, though, and pleased to be with you guys tonight.
Great to have you along, Matt. Hey, listen, he also moonlights with AJ Bianco. AJ, if you're listening out there, AP Roundtable, waiting for that next show to come out. I know it's going to happen soon. Kick it up to Dr. Spike Cook.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Spike Cook. I'm principal at Lakeside Middle School. This weekend, I planted 24 green thuja trees. They're quick growing trees around my property where I just moved. So I'm really excited about that. Did a lot of research on the different things that I need to do to make sure that these things grow fast. And so learning a lot, always trying to keep that, growth mindset going. The other thing is that I think the last time I was on, you all were talking about you had been back to school and everyone had been back to school, and you didn't warn me what this school year was going to be like. All right. Enough for that. I'm sure I'll be hitting that later on. Thanks, Dean.
You got it, Spike. Great to have you back. You know that. I love the metaphor about planting trees. That goes right into what we talk about with planting the learning seeds as well. Ashley, kick it over to you. Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm Ashley Hubner. I'm coming to you from Venice, Florida. I had a nice day at a restaurant on the marina watching the boats. That was really nice for dinner. I'm an educational consultant. I'm working with a company right now called Ed Connective, doing virtual coaching with teachers and instructional coaches. And then I'm also doing some curriculum project management with Reimagine Classroom.
Well, great to have you, Ashley. We're really excited to have you with us tonight. Now to our star guest who's sitting at the head of the round table, Jillian, welcome to our show. You know, everywhere I've gone and people I've spoken to said, you've got to get Jillian DuBois on your show because she is just a staple, just that type of person that you want to have a conversation with. And I remember vividly, I think it was Daryl Packard, and you wrote a book with him as well, okay? And he said, you've got to get her on. So welcome to our show. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you're all about, and kind of what makes you tick and where you're at.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Like, I feel like honored. That is like crazy. Nobody has ever talked about me like that before. Thank you. So,
Welcome.
no, I'm Jillian and I am a second grade educator. I've been in education for over 20 years and I love it. I love every minute of it. I say that, it's, I'm on a middle school little show right here, but second graders are disguised as middle schoolers in smaller packages. So, I mean, they think the same way. It's just the way it is. And I tell you what, I also work for an ed tech company in Cincinnati, Ohio, called Forward Edge, and I am an author, an illustrator, and a publisher. So yeah, just lots of things. I just say I'm kind of an ordinary person that gets to do extraordinary things with extraordinary people. So.
I love your enthusiasm. And I'm going to correct you on something. This isn't just a middle level show. This is an educational platform for anything and everything great. So again, we welcome you. We welcome anybody who's in education who can say things and knows things that can help us become better together. So again, let's jump right into this. If we could, I'm going to kick it right back to you, Jillian, because we're talking about meeting students where they are. And how important is that for all of us? Because we're back in school right now. A lot of us, I think, Josh, you're almost coming to the end of the first term or the first trimester or whatever you have going there. We're at the right middle part. And you know what? Kids are getting it done, but it's not getting done without a struggle. Because I don't care what anybody says, that recalibration of a child back into the structure of school hasn't been easy. You know, and with TikTok and other social media things out there, devious licks, having those kids do things that are just kind of derailing the structure, man, it's hard. But I'll tell you what, none of us are going to give up. So Jillian, kicking it back over to you.
Well, we just finished our first quarter on Thursday. And, it's so funny because everybody on social media is like, oh my gosh, this year is so hard. Oh my gosh, it's such a struggle. And it's just not coming together like I thought it would. But y'all, everything has just changed. I mean, we have to realize that it is not going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. And we have to learn how to unlock that. So we have to look at what is their potential. We have to look at what are their capabilities, what are their abilities, and we have to meet them where they are. So we have to start looking at things differently. And, what does it require? Some pretty big radical commitment from us, because if we're not the ones that are kind of like guiding that and leading that for them, they haven't seen a normal year in 2 years. So we've got to really pick up the pace, and we do have to kind of stand up and get it started for them.
I'm glad you said that, because I've had more conversations with teachers to say it's okay. It's going to take 180 days to reprogram and get kids back to where they are. And I mean that, because every child's at a different place. Let's kick it over to Spike. In your school, what are you seeing where you're really trying to meet the kids where they are? And how is it different from pre-COVID time periods?
It's completely different. And I understand what Jillian's saying. Unfortunately, I feel like those who are in our state departments of education and things like that really do want things to go right back to normal. We started these Start Strong assessments that are standardized assessments, and just finished those this week. And considering everything that's going on, we really this is a paradigm shift. But I wish we were able to really embrace it and continue with the 21st century learning that we've been picking up over the course of the last 3 years. Even though we're 2 decades into the 21st century, and, really honoring that and truly meeting the kids where they are, because I think we have to relook at everything. We're trying to go back to what I call playing school, and the kids and the parents are telling us by and large that they don't want to play school anymore. And guess what? We don't either. Those change agents that are ready to do this need to be allowed to start making systematic changes to really meet the kids where they are. I think we need to be looking at everything that we do: the length of classes, the amount of classes that the kids have, the type of classes, the connections that they're having, the length of day, the things like that, because those are the things that were really tweaked during our hybrid and online learning, which unfortunately I feel like a lot of people are also the ones that want to play school. They're also saying that none of that was working. And I argue with that, because I think that it was meeting the needs, getting back to what Dean's original statement was, what are you doing to meet the needs? So honestly, we're having a lot of conversations, because you have stressed out teachers and I think as our role, just to get, just kind of sum up my part, our role as education leaders are to listen to what everyone's saying and make those changes that we can. But I'm ready to go a little bit deeper, but we need to do this together.
I love that you say together, because I'll tell you what, the system's been in place for so long. And what better time is it than to reimagine school than coming out of COVID? Honestly, now is the time to really look at the tools that we've had, that we've been able to enhance and utilize, and now try to put them to good use. Dru, let's talk to you about what's happening down there. Talk about the pushback. Talk about where kids are at now in your school and what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I can say that, I mean, very similar to what Spike said. Our kids have been, have struggled with the transition back. And we're not just talking about, the normal transition for a 5th grade to 6th grade coming in. Like, that's always a challenge. But we've seen that, our 7th and 8th graders have also struggled with just the normal cadence of the school day and the normal cadence of the school year. We, like Spike said and others have said, like, the community wants, to use like a music analogy, like everyone wants the tempo to be the same that it always has been. Yeah. Everyone wants the structure of the school day to be the same, but that's a challenge. And so right now, we are meeting our kids where they are in some respects. We're having those small unstructured check-ins and conversations and just, that kind of stuff that isn't in the manual, but you just know to do. And the same with, I'm glad that somebody mentioned about teachers and staff, because that's been a big adjustment too, is just meeting our teachers and staff where they are right now and trying to wrestle with the question of how do we do more to meet our students' needs, because they are needing more, without burning everybody out. Yeah. That's what we're really struggling with right now. But again, I think we're doing everything that we can. We're asking the really good questions right now. I'm not quite sure if we have all of the answers, but at least we got some good questions going.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it is students, staff alike. It's community members too. It's parents. They're still trying to figure out how to help calibrate their kids to get their mind back into the school structure. So great points. Matt, kick it over to you.
Yeah, that structure piece is important, and you guys were hitting on it a little bit. One of the things that we've had lots of conversations, and it's all over social media, is the last time X group of students had a normal school year.
Yeah, 2 years.
And like that plays out at the secondary level. I think in some of you said the devious licks, I feel like a lot of times the kids have no connection to the building. And because they don't necessarily have a connection to the building, that's why we're seeing some of these destructive behaviors. So in knowing that, and thankfully 6th grade, it's been very mild as far as that's concerned. But in knowing that, Dru mentioned this, but the questions that we're asking, getting with the kids, small groups, individually, making sure that we're diving in that way, trying to, I guess, get a sense of why don't they feel connected to the building? Is it because the last time they had a normal school year was 5th grade and they weren't in our building yet? So we've just been kind of moving them along throughout this process. And that's hard. I work in a school that has a lot of students. When you talk about 500 at each grade level, that's a lot of kids trying to go to meet their needs and figure out where they are. But, we do a good job of having those conversations. And, as far as 6th grade is concerned, again, we are trying to do everything possible to connect them to Benjamin Franklin Middle School. We want them to be a part of it. And I had a conversation with our high school principal last week, and that was the thing that he kept bringing up, just trying to figure out ways to get those kids connected to the goal and I guess the mission of the school. Yeah,
actually getting 60 minutes of learning in a true block of time. It's very, very difficult. And it's difficult for teachers. Josh.
Many years ago when I was going to school, we would hear comments saying, teachers need to talk to the kids, because if we don't talk to them, the gangs will talk to them, because they need to find that niche. They need to find that connection, el amor, that connection with them that they need to feel complete, because they might not be getting it at home for whatever reason. Well, social media has filled in that other gap, because we still have the gang problem. That hasn't gone away. It's still there. But now we have TikTok at our hand. And I love what Matt said. What are we doing for people that sit in our chairs, in the leadership chair, to rally our kids as jaguars, to rally them as bears, to rally them as falcons, to rally them together as bulldogs, whatever it might be? We have to give them the unity and the self-pride that we've had in an institution. Here we could fill up a bowl with 90,000 terrapins watching football game. Why can't we could do that in a school of 2,500, 300? But that takes an effort. And it goes back to what Dru said. It has to take the effort of people that are in the leadership position to bring the whole family, the coaches together, that they promote that vision for what the campus is. Because success will breed success, and whatever it is, whether it be academic or school pride, it's all of us that takes them to be part of the team. And that's the main focus of somebody that sits in the chair like Spike, someone like Dr. Dru, someone like you, Dean, myself, is that we need to make sure that we make everybody on one set mission to unite our hijos together with our team members, that we're under one banner. So while they're in those 8 hours, 7.5, whatever you want to call it, while they're in our campus, all the noise stays away. All the ugly negativity stays away, and they stay focused. Then they'll feel part of it, and they won't be destroying towel dispensers. They will not be dumping soap in the toilet. They will not be looking to smacking a teacher in the rear end. Okay? Because all that nonsense is around the corner, and if we take that away and they feel love for their colors, let's use that as a positive that we do within a campus.
Josh, thanks. And you know what? I'm thinking about one identity for one learning community and helping them feel a sense of belonging. What a concept that is, because that's what we're all trying to do. Ashley, kick it up to you.
I agree. I think there's a lot of lack of connection from the kids being COVID. I mean, they were on technology so much in a lot of the remote settings and virtual learning that they just learned to be so independent and get onto, other platforms that they wanted to go look at. I think the biggest thing I'm seeing with teachers that I'm working with right now is building those relationships with the kids all over again. And that also then builds the engagement into class, So that's pretty, our first point that we work on is, what is your relationship with the students and what does that look like and how are you building that with them? And then how are we engaging them into the learning on task? Like, the time on task for them is very short. Their attention span is out the door because they're used to being on technology or doing whatever they wanted because they weren't in the school setting. Like many of y'all said, they weren't in that play school. Like, how do we do school? So I think that's a big focus, is how do we get them to be on task for a certain amount of time? And then how do we break that up for them? How do we motivate them through that, giving them praise and reassuring them through those moments when they get those small successes? I've seen a lot of, we have to teach fourth grade material, but these kids are functioning on second grade level. So how are we scaffolding that down for them? How are we building in those multiple entry points to get them to that content, to get them where they need to be? So I agree with everything you are saying. I think that the relationships and the engagement piece is the biggest part.
Well, connecting where you said at their entry point, that's huge, especially after 2 years being out of school. Because I talk to teachers all the time, and where they are and what they have to do in their pacing guide to be able to be prepared for state testing versus connecting with kids and making it a meaningful learning experience, two different worlds. Yeah. I've been saying pump the brakes, make the kids feel comfortable, go back and review. Guess what? We're all creating a baseline coming back into school. And if we do that, kids are going to be met with more success, feel more comfortable about being in school and learning, and actually have fewer discipline problems because they feel comfortable. And I think that is so important. Back to you, Jillian. Let's talk about this on board syndrome. How do we bust that? What does that mean to you?
Well, it's like, I think we hear it from all the kids, and they're coming in now and they are like, they don't know what to expect. They don't know what to expect from us. They don't know how we're going to be treating them. They're not knowing how they're being treated by their peers. It's just like such a uncomfortable position for them right now. So I think that the I'm bored syndrome, I think, is kind of their cop out. It's kind of their way of kind of handling things and being able to use that as an excuse. Especially, my kids too. They're second grade, but they're always like, I'm bored. I don't get it. What are we doing? What are we doing now? So we have to just make sure that we've got a consistent groove for them. But I heard a quote, and it says, the cure for boredom is curiosity. There is no cure for curiosity. So my thing is, keep these kids curious. Allow them to ask questions, allow them to question you. We do, like Ashley was saying, we have to get to know them. We have to know what they're coming in that door every morning, talking about entry points, daily entry points. Are they coming in upset? Are they coming in hungry? Are they coming in frustrated? Are they coming in angry? So we have to read the room before we even start our day with a whole lot of kids. So it's a challenge, yes, but that boredom, busting that I'm bored syndrome, we've got to endure their curiosity. We need to hype that up. We need to amp that up, because if they're going to be curious about something, they're going to be invested. They're going to be engaged. So we ask whys all the time. Why not let them ask the whys?
Jillian, I'm going to just take that one step further. How do you give your staff or teachers in general permission to change what they think they have to do in order to recreate the learning process? One of the biggest challenges we all face, because they're all pushed. So I'm going to throw it back to you before we kick it around the table as being an educator.
Yeah. And I think that, we have to realize too, that we only have, we have a green zone too. We expect these kids to be on 7 or 8 hours. We as adults we can only handle about 3 hours of the green zone. So I call the green zone, I think it was a Carrie Newhoff podcast, a day. That's all we can handle, right? So we have to maximize our time with them. We have to take that pressure off ourselves to try and fill in all of these gaps, and just really pick up by what I was saying, reading the room, knowing where these kids are, meeting them where they are, because we're not going to be able to cover every single thing that they've missed. And we have to let our staff know that too, and our faculty and our teachers and everybody. But if we all can work together and pull that together and have that same mentality, I think it will make us a lot more successful.
Spike, kicking it over to you.
So, like I said, the last time I was on here, a lot of schools were already in session and we hadn't begun yet. I think it was like right before Labor Day, because I think like you, Dean, we start later in Jersey and in Connecticut. So I would say it was like towards the end of the second week. And I was like, something's not right here. There's something completely off, like, and everything that everybody's talking about. So, so what I did was, I needed to find out what was going on with the staff, and similar to what Matt said, like we have a big school, we have a lot of staff. It's very hard to connect with everybody. So what I did over the weekend was I reached out to as many people as I could, and were able to have, half hour, 45-minute, even hour-long phone conversations, and just asking the staff what is going on, and how they were feeling. Like, how are we like burn out after 2 weeks, right? Because it is easy to sit behind the principal's desk and say, well, you got to do this and you got to do this, and I mean, none of us are like that, but I mean, that's like the traditional role. And so the things that I was hearing were, they do feel that they wanted more time to connect with the kids. We did this, we used to do the first 3 days, and now it was scaled back to first 2 days, where it's just everybody's doing the same thing. We're going for routines and things like that. And a lot of them were like, we probably needed a first month, to do that. But you do have folks that are saying, there's new lesson plan format. You still have to do our student growth objectives, the state testing, all that. So, basically what I came up with because I believe in that book, if you don't feed the teachers, they'll eat the kids. And that next week I didn't take any meetings, and I just was around. And it's because the other thing was that, talk about like the first 2 weeks, like I was in this meeting and that meeting, and we're still interviewing people. So I certainly wasn't as visible as I'd like to be. And then everything is going crazy. So anyway, really listening to that feedback with the teachers is extremely important. And like you said, from within the context that we can, I give them permission to do anything that they feel like is necessary. If they have to pump the brakes, if they have to do other things. And I did that as well. I told everyone I'm not taking any appointments. I'm not going to any meetings, and I just need to get out and connect with people again. And it does feel like an overwhelming thing. But it's exhausting, but I think that's really what we found that we had to do. I mean, it's amazing that it's October and we're still going. And I think and like you had said earlier, like it's going to take like a whole year, I think. So I think we have to look at this as more of a marathon.
Yeah. No, thanks. I appreciate that. Drew.
Yeah. So to go back to like the I'm bored syndrome, like part of me, like when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, I said, it reminded me of like when you've got a record. I'm dating myself, right? We got an LP. Remember what those are like, right? And it's on the same, and it skips and it keeps playing the same song over and over. That I do feel like kids have adopted a language, or kids have a script, and that's the message that they go to. So of like, I'm bored. I don't, like you said, like I'm bored. I don't get this. What are we doing? Like, so part of it is on us in terms of building level leaders as well as teachers in the building to make sure that we give them new messaging. You know what I mean? Like, I always ask kids, like, so what did you get to do at school today? Not what you have to do at school. What did you get to do at school today? Just asking that. And even like one of my favorite things to do, and I stole this from somewhere, is like, even if I have a kid in my office for a disciplinary conversation, my final question is, hey, what's your favorite class? Like, what's your favorite thing to do here at school? You know, like, so that way they leave the office thinking, oh, I'm going to reset myself to get ready for my next, class or whatever. And then like, I think too, like just engaging strategies, no matter what the content is. And then helping, teachers and staff boil down the standards to those power standards. What are the essential power standards? So that we don't feel like you have to cover everything. And then I would say like Spike, you had said, getting out into classes, like, and not for evaluation purposes or anything like that, but goodness gracious, like I always just take notes in with me, just little notes, and I'll just sit in there for like 5 minutes and I'll say, thanks so much for letting me be in your classroom today. I really enjoyed being a part of it. And, of course, write something specific so it doesn't just sound like some Hallmark moment, and then stick it on the computer and get out, But then I'm also very aware of being aware of toxic positivity, as they say. It can't all be sunshine and rainbows. It's acknowledging the hard stuff.
Yeah. It's funny that you said the engagement and the differentiation, because, even pre-COVID, there was still a level of kids who were bored. And it was because of a system. It's a system that's an antiquated system that we all have in public education. Until we break those barriers of what 180 days looks like and don't make kids be prisoner to that, especially if they have the ability to move up, then we're never going to change. But man, I love that. And thank you for bringing that up. Ashley, kick it up to you, because I want the curriculum perspective on this before we go over to Matt. So go ahead, Ashley.
Well, before I dive into that, my 3-year-old tells me all the time how bored he is. And y'all talking about this just made something trigger my mind. And I started thinking about, why does he tell me that but my daughter doesn't? And I think he is a naturally curious kid, and he honestly wants to be doing things all the time. And if he is not engaged, he tells me he's bored. He's like, Mom, I'm bored. And he constantly asks me, like, what are we going to do next? What's going to happen when we get home? Like, he wants to know, he wants that structure, and he wants to have something to engage in all the time. And I was like, now I know I'm going to go back and parent a little bit differently after this conversation. So thank you. But I think y'all were talking about, what can principals do and leadership do to help. I think the big thing that I hear from teachers a lot is the word fidelity really drives, they have this love-hate relationship with it. Like it, when we have programs that we have to use to help get kids where they need to be, like those intervention programs, we want them to be systematic, and we want them to be consistent, but they feel like when they hear this word fidelity, they are stuck in this box, and they can't have those individual moments with those kids or do those little tweaks with with kids that they know will work. Coming back from COVID, we had a lot of kids that just didn't have confidence because they didn't know how to do school. And having the opportunity to slow down and just build confidence with those kids by taking time to build those relationships. This kid is not reading on grade level, so I'm just going to read with them for 10 minutes a day before I start shoving stuff down their throat. They need to know that they kind of have that leeway. And so what I kind of like to say is do it with intentionality. Be intentional about it, throw away the word fidelity, but have intention and purpose. And then you have that freedom to kind of have that flexibility on how you're going to help that specific kid with the needs that they have to meet them where they are.
Good stuff. Matt.
Yeah, Dru, again, piggybacking off what he said, he said one of the questions he asked is, what's your favorite class? And I asked that a lot too. And what you end up finding with what's your favorite class is it's the teacher that spent the most time building a relationship with the kid. And that teacher is probably not going to hear I'm bored very often, because they have those good connected relationships with the kids. So when they are speaking, they have the kids' attention. The kids like that style, and they keep it moving. We started, and Spike said this earlier, we started August the 11th. Our first day with our kids was a long time ago. The 15th, this coming Friday, is the end of the first 9 weeks. in hindsight, I'm kind of kicking myself. Last year, the actual COVID year, we did a lot at the beginning of the year as far as building more so than ever classroom community. And I think we were thinking that this year was going to be normal. And in doing so, we just started right out of the gate, typically how we normally would. And I think the issue with that is when you're not spending that time intentionally, that a word from earlier, building the community within the classroom, building the community within the school campus, then the kids are not going to be connected. They're going to have no reason to engage with the material. And Dean, you said this earlier, I feel like right before COVID, we were trying to get to a point where we were looking at, why are we teaching this way? Couldn't the kid go do something else? Could we have outside internships? Does a kid really need to go from this set of math classes to this set of math classes? And then COVID hit and boom, and I felt like everything was derailed. And I don't know why. I feel like we should be able to go back to that mentality of what are we forcing our kids to have to sit through just because that's the way that it's always been done. If that's the case, then you're always going to have a segment of kids that are bored because we're not giving them anything that they find connectivity to. I mean, I think about our sixth graders. I love our elective teachers. However, we offer a very small set of electives. They can take keyboarding and graphic design. They can take art, and they can take family and consumer sciences. We could be offering so much more. It's just you have to place as much focus on that as you do jamming sixth grade math and seventh grade math onto them. So I'm not sure what the cure for boredom specifically is, or the phrase "I'm bored." I also have a 3-year-old, and she does say that quite often. But we have to figure it out. That's what we're charged with. So that's my piece.
Hey, Matt, it's funny. I got something that came to me on Twitter, and it's called the comfort zone. And it's the 4 stages. You start in that comfort zone, then it's fear zone, learning zone, and growth zone. In order to go from comfort to growth, there's a lot of movement there. And there's got to be a lot of change on what you believe in to get there. You've got to let go of so many things. And that's hard to do in this business sometimes. But I think that's the drum that we got to keep on pounding as educational leaders to ensure that it's okay to take those risks. It's okay to do those different things, because when you do that, you're going to see student engagement begin to rise, and you're going to start seeing kids really enjoying the opportunity to learn in your class. Josh.
I think that it's another thing that we need to look at systemically, because all administrators, tell me how many meetings you've been in the last umpteen months that are still 1980s. We get bored. The teachers get bored. Not only the kids. So you can't, it's not, as Todd Whitaker says, it's not about programs, it's about people. And if you're boring me, I tuned you out. So one of the things that recently, since I've been in charge of MPA, it's a teacher-held PD. They present to themselves. And the only thing is I lay what my look-fors are, and I get people that the campus clerk and the campus receptionist presented about brain research. Everyone is willing to step up. And it's about jigsawing. It's about using a Pear Deck. It's about using Nearpod amongst ourselves. That way we get away from being sage on the stage and using all the new skills that we have right now with COVID. There's so many beautiful things that we can do thanks to the disease.
Yeah.
And as Todd Whitaker says, there's nothing bad with lecture. There's nothing bad. It has to be good lecture. Hey, they pay Tony Robbins $10 gazillion for lecturing to us, and we want to pay him more, right? Because he engages us. So what I'm talking about is ourselves sitting in our chairs, our leadership chair, is making sure that we establish the foundation, making sure that we let our teachers know, our team members know that when you present, engage the kids, because you don't like that I bore you. That's why I present to you doing this. That's why you all present to each other doing rotating stations. That's how we do our PDs. They present in rotating stations in the cafeteria. That's how we get them engaged. Because you know what helps engagement with kids? Tier 1 bell-to-bell instruction. You know what stops discipline? Tier 1 bell-to-bell instruction. You know what ends the cell phone situation in your classroom? Tier 1 bell-to-bell instruction. The second that we allow a little gap of nonsense, or we go back to being the sage on the stage, our kids will go putting their hoodies on, hiding the earbuds behind their neck, sitting on the sideway, texting at the very bottom, because we're doing what? We're doing what a lot of our leaders do to us. They bore us by blah, 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 blah. So this is a perfect time. And you know what? I'm not scared of saying that because I say that at meetings. You're telling me to engage. Everyone should engage. But here you just spend 2 hours talking to me, when the majority of this could have been an email. It starts from the top. So people sitting in our chair, we need to role model. We need to present using engaging. Let the team members present using engaging structures, and that just will go through the body of the campus.
You know, I look at my team leaders or my leadership council and I call them innovators. You're my innovation team. And if we can't look at our product and be innovative with that product and change, then we're doing more of the same. And more of the same won't cut it during these time periods. It just won't. You know, in Ed Camp, we saw Principal Caffelli throw that down there. I love Ed Camps. And I think Ed Camps are great for teachers because those teachers can go out and pre-program and do things they want to do. And their colleagues will join in. I've been a recipient of a couple of them. And they're so much fun. And again, you leave with what you need to get out of that. I appreciate you putting that out there, Principal Caffelli. Let's talk a little bit about strengths-based learning. What does that mean, Jillian?
Well, to me, it really starts with me. So it's starting with me, kind of scaling down that instructional time, because I can talk forever and my kids know that I can, and they check out after a certain period of time. So about 6 years ago, I started with a sand timer, and I use that sand timer. I have them all different times, but I use the 10-minute sand timer, and I would just say, all right, here's our lesson today, and turn it over. And those kids have a visual, and I know they could do it on the computer screen or whatever, but the visual of just a sand timer, having my kids know that I'm only going to talk for 10 minutes. I'm going to guide you and direct you for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to give you a charge, that I'm going to give you something to do. I'm going to give you something that you are capable to do and that you're able to do. And, you know, give them those opportunities to unlock their potential and give them the ideas and spark a movement. And just let them, you know, I do give very specific things to do, and I do it in different grids, right? Depending on where they are with my lower level learners and my higher level learners. But it's a wonderful thing when you can just let them go, use what they can do to keep building and growing. And it works. So
one might argue that that's a difficult task to do for one teacher with 20 kids in a room with multiple needs, so multiple entry points to understanding. So what I would say, and how would you, again, it goes back to that question, how do you allow for that teacher to take those risks to find, I mean, obviously you've got best practices, you've got horizontal planning. If you have a district of more than one school, there are a lot of ways that you can actually bring in best practices and help a teacher get there, but it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, because meeting everyone's needs in a very diverse group of learners is hard work. It's hard work because we teach to the center. So I'm glad you said that. I mean, I'm really interested to hear, you know, Spike, I'm going to kick it over to you for a second. What do you say to your teachers about how to reach them all and you looking at strengths-based learning as a mode of learning?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things out there that we have at our disposal, right? So, you know, when you look at everything from, you know, using Google Classroom or whatever, you know, sort of online platform, you know, learning management system that you're using, you give the ability to get your information out and get it back in a very timely way. You can analyze the data, you can look at the data. I also think there's so many different things that you can do with your, you know, so your opening couple minutes and your closing few minutes to connect with kids in a different way. Similar to what everyone has said, like when they're in our offices talking, having, you know, teachers, instead of doing something that relates to their curriculum, you could easily do, you know, integrate something like an SEL, like try to get an idea of how kids are feeling or things like that very quickly. I think the mass breaks have been a great way to give kids space. So if you're in an 80-minute class and you've done some warm up, whether you're trying to get them, connected to you, and, whether or not you're using, a quick Google form or quick write or something like that, or just a discussion, connecting with the kids that way, you're going over your content, you're taking them out for 10 minutes to get some fresh air. I mean, think about that. You could practice some mindfulness. We're fortunate at our school where we have like different, sensory walks they can do, mindfulness spaces on the campus, and then get them back in and then close them up, and ask them, hey, how do we do? Did we do it? Like just connecting with them that way, and utilizing the technology along the way. You're differentiating instruction, all those sort of, corny cliche things that everyone's asking us to do, some of them really do have some merit, right? So to me, you can do it. Sounds easier, said than done. But I think our most gifted teachers are using that. You talk about a cadence, getting back to like what Josh was saying, keeping them informed. So you're not only, you are getting through the curriculum, but you're also showing that you're caring, you're listening to them, and that's going to help you as I believe as a teacher, guide your instruction, connecting with kids, giving them multiple opportunities, whether it's a discussion, whether it's a form, whether it's a game, to participate in the way that they want to.
Is this me? I can't hear what you guys are saying. So you can hear me? All right.
Yes, my mic was off. I apologize. My dogs are barking.
I thought suddenly it was
true. I
having
thought the same thing because you guys were doing this. I was like, did they catch anything? Probably not. I'm like, oh, that's great. So you heard me too?
I heard you. I heard.
Oh,
you.
All right.
But then all of a sudden I couldn't hear anybody.
Yeah, I couldn't hear. I thought it was just you and I, Drew. Okay, hey, over to you.
No,
Drew.
I thought it was like the Marceau podcast all of a sudden. So, and again, I was also saying my internet was kind of a little janky for a quick second. So I think we're talking about differentiation with students and how to different entry points. So a couple different things. One is kind of goes back to that message of meeting students where they are at an individual level. But then I also hear us talking about how to have almost a galvanizing branding and messaging. So students understand like, hey, we got you. You're an individual. We value you. You've got voice in this. To go back, you've got ownership in the building, but you're also a part of our community here at school. And that's where like we've done a deliberate and intentional effort to brand and message our school. What does it mean to be Husky strong? And what does it mean, to do that? And not in a cliche way. Obviously, 6th and 7th graders and 8th graders, they're all kind of, I don't know, they get kind of jaded about that kind of stuff, but you try to be genuine about it. So I think that's part of it too, is, treating them as individuals. Almost, I also want to use the term like multimodal, right? Like teaching from a multimodal perspective, like Josh was saying, you can't be the sage on the stage. You've got to present information in different ways, different entry points, I think, as Ashley said too. So branding, messaging, community, and multimodal teaching. Boom.
That's an inside the park home run right there. You hit them all, baby. Touch every base. Ashley, kick it up to you from a curriculum standpoint once again.
So talking about strengths-based learning, I really, I keep thinking meaningful PLCs and teacher planning. And I know we talked about, we don't want to put more meetings on teachers, but if they really have a good cohesive team, then they can tackle this together, work through it. I feel like it starts with pre-assessments, like knowing what your kids know to begin with when you go in, and then building rubrics off of where you want them to be. This is what they can do. This is what they can almost do. This is where I need them to get. So what am I going to do to get them from this point to that point? There's a lot of resources out there. I think having access to resources that help teachers so they're not spending all of their time doing it is very helpful. One of the ones that comes to my mind is the literacy continuum. It literally has like every reading level possible for a kid and says, these are the things that they should be able to do on this reading level. And these are the things they need to know for the next reading level. And it tells you what to do. So it's like an easy resource to pick up and say, okay, I have all these kids who are reading in a 6th grade level, and I need them on 7th grade. And what are the things that they're not getting that I can go in and teach with them one-on-one or in a small group real quick and help them get to that point. So I think about the math progression charts that NCTM puts out and other programs like Imagine Learning and iReady, and they have those progression charts that show you these are the progressions of math. And this is like from one step to the next step. So how do I get them there? Like that's going to drive the teachers' small group instruction, the one-on-one conferences to help fill those gaps in a quick amount of time. Let's see what else. So the multimodal that Dru mentioned, like I was thinking about that. They need a variety of access of learning. Like they need that project-based learning. They need that technology application. One of my favorite teachers that I worked with in my last district, she was a math teacher, but she was like STEM all the way, engineering. She would integrate everything she could into any project in the classroom. And she did this huge community project at the end of the year where kids actually designed their own community using all these math algorithms. And then they coded it, and they had like this Sphero that would drive around the community. They did posters to like advertise their community. Like she hit social studies, math, ELAR, everything. And I think kids need that to engage them and fill in those gaps and work with each other and grow together. So I think that, you know, the access to all the different types of learning. We talked, MPA, I forgot your name.
That's Josh.
Josh Tovar. Yeah, he talked about the brain strategy and the brain research that one of his teachers presented in their PD. Marcia Tate, I don't know if you've heard of her, but she does a great, the 20 brain strategies for kids. Like if teachers just integrated even those into their lecture or instruction, like bringing in the songs, bringing in the chants, like that's going to engage them and fill in those gaps. There's a lot of push in math of knowing like the conceptual understanding and not memorizing things. But then there's a lot of research that shows like kids need to memorize things. And we've gotten away from that. And they don't know chants. They don't know song lyrics because they're not memorizing those things. So I think we have to integrate that stuff back in there and bring in that fun and help engage them and help them get those basics.
Ashley, become a facilitator and let the kids go through multiple means of learning. What a concept. I love it. Good, great stuff. Matt, kick it down to you.
So just a fair warning, I just heard my 3-year-old scream my name from behind me somewhere. So if she blasts into this, I apologize. But when I was thinking about strength-based learning, I feel like we struggle with that because, Dean, you had said this, we do teach to the middle. And because of that, one of the things that I try to do is I try to have conversations at the very beginning of the year intentionally and then throughout the year about having it being important for students to find growth being the goal. And, we have pacing guides, and yes, we're supposed to follow the pacing guides, but it cannot possibly be the driving factor in everything that we're doing. We want them to know this, but they're not all starting at the same spot. And we know that. And for them to get to the point we need them to be, we have to go back. I was having a conversation with a math teacher the other day, and she said one of the reasons that she is finding success this year is she feels like she is constantly going back. Well, in 5th grade, you learned X, Y, or Z. And this is the vocabulary you learned in 5th grade. So now this is what we're going to use in 6th grade. And this is how we work this moving forward. But someone else talked about PLCs. One thing that we've had success with so far this year, we worked really hard over the summer to make sure that our core content teams had common planning time. They worked incredibly well during the COVID year last year, pooling resources and trying to figure out what would work best. So we said, hey, you know what, to really continue that going forward, let's have science. All 6 science teachers have planning at the same time, all 6 math, English and social studies, and that's been huge. And then one thing for me in the classroom, and still something that I try to do right now, is just leverage technology as much as possible. Somebody mentioned Pear Deck earlier. We've been having conversations recently about how you can switch from teacher paced to student paced, and that is going to be super helpful in allowing the kids to, yes, we practice this all together, and no, I might not be as strong as the person sitting right beside me, but I'm going to be able to attack this on my own. And then we all can come back together at the end, figure out whatever misconceptions we had. And that way people aren't feeling like they're put out because they're not going at the same pace as everybody else. But, I think you have to be focused on growth as the goal.
Absolutely agree, 100%. Now, listen, I feel like Jim Cramer right now because I'm going to go into lightning round because we're coming up on 50 minutes. And I'm going to stop this. I'm going to throw it back to Jillian for 1 second, but then it's going right down to Josh. The last thing we're going to talk about tonight in your best 30-second rendition. Love them, celebrate them. What are we going to do, and what does that look like? Jillian?
To me, I mean, that's what they want. Everybody wants to love and be loved, celebrate and be celebrated. And we have to stop being so serious. I love to tell stories. I tell real stories. I tell authentic stories. I try and relate with my kids as much as I can. I try and be real. I'm wrong. I let them know when I'm wrong. I want them to catch me being wrong. I just want them to know that I love them. I want them to know that I celebrate every effort that they're making. And I think when they know that, when they believe that there is that trust there and that respect, that it is reciprocated.
Josh, you got 30 seconds, brother. Brand it.
Celebrate, always promote it, make sure that it's out there, continue your patterns of behavior as a campus, as a leadership team, show them that it's not a one and done situation. It's about patterns of behavior, loving them, caring about them, because you know what? Kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes, sir. Matt, you're up.
Way more than 30 seconds. I was trying to play a song. So one of my favorite things to do, we have positive parties on almost every single Friday, and our kids get positive referrals. We call it earning your wings, and because we are the Eagles. And without fail, 6th grade, I love one of the things that they will do that 7th and 8th grade will not do is humor you, and I make them dance with me. And I've got 3 lovely songs blended together. The last one is "Fly Like an Eagle." And I make them bob their heads, and they get into that, and then they start moving their hands. And the last thing they do, and it's the best part, we fly our way on out of there. So the kids enjoy that. I read what the teacher wrote about them and all the great things that they did. We send a letter home to their parents thanking them for their hard work in that. And no matter how hard it gets, my secretary, who's just the most incredible person on the earth, will look at me on a hard day and say, "We need to have a positive party." Into the main lobby we go. So that's how we celebrate those kids.
Check that box. I absolutely love it. Drew.
All right. First of all, I'd say access to recognition for every student daily in our school, weekly in our house program. We have our monthly Husky Strong Awards where anybody can get a reward. And goodness gracious, like you already said, it's not about the programs, it's about the people. So get out there and be authentic. And just remember what you were like as a young adolescent, because that's what it's all about.
Love it. Spike.
I love the fact you said lightning round. That's the name of our blog. So I'll talk about how we, you got to tell your school story, because if you don't, who will? And no matter what you're doing, so from the micro into the classroom to the school to the district, you've got to get that positive information out there. You got to get, you got to be transparent, but you got to get that positive information out there, because there's so many other things that are, out there just not positive in education. We have to change that, and it's all at your fingertips. It doesn't even cost anything. Take a picture, write about your school, celebrate your teachers.
We call that noise. And we talked about resiliency in my school last week. I put out my video on that. Let it bounce off you. It doesn't matter. Small stuff. Ashley.
I just think that your classroom culture has to breed that team. I think, like Matt said, with the song and the wings and all that stuff, like we had chants after, like someone would share, we would do like firecracker claps or whatever, like just having all those different structures in your room all the time, all day long, that y'all celebrate each other all together. But then also, like, I went through a training about filling the bucket. I'm sure y'all probably heard that. And just getting to know your kids individually and how do they like to be praised? Because some kids want it out loud in front of everybody. Some of them just want you to write them a note. Some of them want you to call their parents. So how do you celebrate their success and make it fill their bucket individually for them? And so I just think that any way that we can celebrate students all day, every day is the best thing that we can do.
Hey, you guys have filled my bucket tonight. There's no doubt about it. There's some great things going around the table. Jillian, I'm going to give you the last word. I'm going to step away before we close out. What do you have to say?
I just want to say that, y'all, it's messy and it's hard. And not all teachers and all administrators and all leadership are passionate like this. So I think it is, up to us as many of us as we can to really just rally behind the team and work to make everybody stronger, because yes, stronger together, better together, but it is not easy. But we can't give up. We cannot give up.
It's not easy. And I'll tell you, every Sunday night we walk away saying, man, we've learned something new. We've connected with somebody else around the country who's dealing with the exact same thing that we're dealing with. And when that slogan, better together, that is so important for all of us. We're not creating this on our own. We're reinventing and we're shaping and molding our own schools to be the best that they can be all the time. Hey, listen, we're running out of time. It's 55 minutes of great talk tonight. So listen, on behalf of Josh, Matt, Dru, Spike, Ashley, and Jillian, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'd ask you guys all to stay on if you could for a moment. But again, stay tuned. Next week, we're coming back. Evan Robb will be with us in the house next week for a great show on his new book. Can't wait. But for tonight, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. We had a great time. Be well. Retweet this out because I think it's important to get this message out to everybody. Listen, have a great week. Make a difference. Be strong.